Hello. Today, December 7th, is Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. We have invited Roy Henderson, a World War II veteran who served in the Pacific, to come and share his story.
Hello, Mr. Henderson. Welcome here. We're so excited that you've agreed to come and talk to us about World War II. So first of all, what did you do during World War II?
Well, I was a Navy corpsman, third class.
Okay, Mr. Henderson, were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted when I was as quick as I was 17. I joined the Navy, wanted to be in the infantry, and that's what I'd be in if I waited till I was drafted at 18. That would be a year and a half, maybe, probably away, but I still didn't want to be in the Marine infantry, you know.
So where did you go for your boot camp?
San Diego, California.
Tell me how you heard about December 7th and the bombing.
Well, when he drove in, he told us the Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor and killed a lot of people. That's the first I'd heard of it. But that was on the 7th. I guess it was June, I decided I was going to join the Navy.
Boot camp was over. Where did you go?
When my boot camp was over, I went up on there was a U.S. Naval Hospital on top of the hill there. I went up there to take training to be a Navy corpsman.
And how long did that take?
It took, well, it cut it back. Usually it took a year, but I was only there, and anybody else is taking us in a hurry for them. So I done mine in 6 months, and then they shipped me to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. They put me in a section because I could walk so far and all that. I was raised in the country on the farm. And what they called a U.S. Naval Beach Party. And we had to make landings on islands. We had to land first and get the information all we could. And there was a reef around all those islands. And they're supposed to make a hole for the boat that carries you to the beach so it could get through to the beach. But that's the first time I ever heard of the frogmen, or whatever they call it now. But they were supposed to blow the holes in the reef there at Saipan, that's the first one. But he couldn't find one. He couldn't find a place, so he just dropped a gate in front. We had to get off, and we had to wade in about, I'd say half a mile at least. Now I'm shooting at you and far, and the water was anywhere from knee deep to shoulder deep, and we was carrying a lot of luggage, and being a corpsman, I had all that medical stuff strapped to me and then one on my back. But we made it into the beach. I did, but some of them didn't. They was killed between the reef and the beach.
So sad. Okay, Mr. Henderson, you landed on Saipan, and what happened after that?
Well, when we landed there was a sugar mill there, and it had a smokestack at it. And we didn't there was a railroad, tiny railroad that they hauled this sugar cane on. And we got to that ditch, and the Japanese were on the other side. So we had to break through them before we could go on to do what we had to do. And then after we got through with that, I don't know how many of them was killed. It was several of us was killed. And there was a sniper still, and the captain got to looking around with his binoculars, and he saw a square hole in one of them stacks, that sugar mill. And he figured that was coming from that that guy was hid, and he was hid in there. Because they'd shoot a certain distance this way, but this was the same, see, because he couldn't move it. But anyway, we ordered that, he did, and it wasn't 10 minutes till here come this dive bomber, and he made a circle, and then he made a dive on that sugar mill, and that bomb went right down that stack, it looked like. And then he went on. Those were big planes. They had a pilot and a radio signalman and a tail gunner on them. It was so big. And incidentally, I can tell, I found out later who that was. It was later President George Bush. But anyway, I read that story about that being him, and so I was down in Houston, me and another guy, and they lived, Mr. and Miss Bush lived in Houston. So they came in and sat down on the front row right behind the catcher. So I told that usher, I said, I know those people. I used to be in the Navy, and he was a Navy pilot. I'd like to talk to him. And so he went and asked him, and he told him that I'd been on Saipan. I said, tell him that, and I think he'll talk to him, and he did. So I went, and they was very nice to me, very nice. I told him, I said, I told him this. One boy, and he was 18, same age as me, but he didn't make it. He made it on the beach, but then there's an indentment there. You had to go up where that railroad track was, and he didn't make it. He got killed there, and he was laying there with about 4 or 5 holes in him, and he was still alive. But he was bleeding through those holes and air and everything, dying. But he laid there for several hours, and us shooting morphine in him to kill his pain. And that wasn't, every time I think about it, I cry. Get rid of.
Right. What did President Bush say to you about Saipan that day?
You know, he said yes, he would. He told that usher he would see me, talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, tell him I was on Saipan, so he's agreed. And I went down there, and I told him where I was at, and so forth, and I said, we sure was glad to see that plane come, because he had killed several. And, but, you know, I only found out when your story was written that it was you that did that, or I wouldn't have known that you done it. So I was very glad that, sir, that you wanted it or agreed to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was very nice, very nice. Yeah, I went back and got on another ship, and I thought, you know, to go to Leyte in the Philippines. And the Japanese withdrew there back in the mountains, so it wasn't any battle at all on the beach, and that's as far as we had to go. So we was only there about 2 or 3 days, then we went back and went on up to invade Luzon. So when we made Ligan Gulf and Subic Bay, 2 places there on Luzon, and they weren't bad at all either. We didn't lose hardly anybody there. So we got back to there. Well, then the next one was Okinawa. And when the day we invaded it was the 1st of April. And when we run into that, it was snowing and sleeting and cold wind blowing out of the north, and we didn't have that kind of clothes because we'd been on the tropic near the zone all the time. So we went ahead and invaded it, but we was cold for 3 days, and they finally came by and dropped us some, they call it foul weather gear. It's warm clothes to put on. Our clothes wasn't near as warm and needed to be, and we got woolen after that and stayed warm.
Mm-hmm.
But we only stayed there, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. I guess about 8 days.
How was the food while you were there?
Excellent.
Excellent.
The Navy food that I grew up on, I think that's one reason I've lived as long as I have. It was excellent. You got everything that you needed, except in battle, you had to eat these K rations. They was powerful, but they weren't tasty. But you could stay alive on them. But in the Navy, you go in the mess hall, you got good food, and that's what I grew up on. I was 5'8" and weighed 132 pounds when I went in. When I came out, I was 6 foot tall and weighed 165 pounds. So I more or less grew up in the Navy.
Okay, so besides growing up and out while you were in the Navy, how did being in the Navy and in World War II and in combat, how did that change your life?
Well, in a way, it changed it a lot. I've seen a lot of the world. I've seen how bad it can be, and also how good it can be.
Is there anything you would like to add about your Navy experience?
Well, I saw more aircraft carriers sunk than I did anything else. But the Japanese, when they went to dive bombing with the people, with the pilot in them, they would try to bomb, and did. They'd just fly into these aircraft carriers. And we was up there at Okinawa. I saw 2 carriers. It was mid-sized carriers that they had switched from being. They started off building a cruiser, and then they changed it to a small flat top, they called them. And it was one of those. They sunk 2 of them by just diving into them. And you see that, and you see the people jumping off from the left, you know. You watch that, and then you got to try to save them. So they sent small boats out, LCVPs, off from both ships to try to save whoever they could pick up, you know.
Right.
That's about the worst thing I saw, I guess. Except, you know, the deaths, but when he was making these landings, that was the worst. I'm glad that I served. My country. And I'm proud that I did what I did. And we are lucky human beings just being born in the USA. I tried to do everything that was required, and I had fear, a lot of fear, but I tried not to think about that, and so I tried not to show it, and I didn't. I just done the best I could do, and some of the stuff that I went through till this day, if I talk about it, it makes me cry because it's so much stacked in you. You got to. The only thing I can think of.
I know you don't think you're a hero, but you are. Thank you, Mr. Henderson. So, Mr. Henderson, the library wants to thank you today for coming and sharing your memories. Some of them, it hurt, but we appreciate your willingness to tell us the truth. And we have a small token of our appreciation for your service, and we want you to have your medal from us.
Well, I thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. I'm glad that I've been recognized, and also I'm glad to have served my country.
You are a patriot, and we appreciate it. Thank you so much. Remember Pearl Harbor.